Vice Chancellor's procession comes into view. Vice Chancellor's procession are directors of academic units and institutes, deans of faculties, the dean of students, provost, College of Medical Sciences, provost, College of Postgraduate Studies, the inaugural lecturer, principal officers of the university, ably led by the captain of the ship, Vice Chancellor, the Vice Chancellor's procession. Thank you, MacDonald. The national anthem, first and second stanzas, followed by the Uniben anthem. Sit. Cerebral and indefatigable Vice Chancellor, the very distinguished Professor Edoba Omoyege, Senior Advocate of Nigeria. I thought we would clap for my governor. Thank you. Your Excellencies, top government functionaries here present, Your Royal Highnesses, other principal officers of our great university, the provosts, deans and directors, the inaugural lecturer and family, professors emeriti, other esteemed scholars here present, my lords, greatest UNIBEN staff and students, invited guests, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we welcome you warmly to this 342nd in the inaugural lecture series of the University of Benin. Put your hands together for UNIBEN, please. While some universities are talking about 100, 200, UNIBEN is talking about 342nd inaugural lecture. Today's lecture is to be delivered by a professor of psychiatry, Professor ENOBAKHARE UWADIAE. And the topic, substance use in our society, the silent epidemic preying on our youths. May I now invite the representative of the registrar, Deputy Registrar Senate Matters, Mrs. Comfort Ehigiato, to present formally the Vice Chancellor in the Vice Chancellor's procession. Madam Reg.
Vice Chancellor, sir. I welcome you all to the 342nd inaugural lecture in the series of this great university. The Registrar of the University, Mr. Ademola Bobola, is away on another official assignment, and he has asked me to stand in for him. He sends his greetings to you all. I am Comfort Inyobuyena Ehigiato, Deputy Registrar, Senate Matters. Permit me to stand on the already established protocol by the Public Relations Officer of this University of Benin, Dr. Benedita Henarene, and to introduce the Vice Chancellor's procession. Today's procession is led by a determined, focused, energetic Vice Chancellor. I therefore crave your indulgence to present to this great audience our own very learned-sick Vice Chancellor, Professor Adoba Omorige. Other principal officers, provosts, deans, and directors in his procession are as follows. Deputy Vice Chancellor Admin, Professor C.C. Osundo. Deputy Vice Chancellor Academic, Professor V.O. Igbomewoka. Deputy Vice Chancellor Kenwan, Professor B.A. Ayinde. The Acting University Librarian, Professor Barrister Walter Meginson. The Provost College of Postgraduate Studies, Professor D.N. Izeko. We have two hosts today, being the lecturer from College of Medical Sciences. One of the hosts, Provost College of Medical Sciences, Professor W. Sado. The Dean of Students, Professor A.C. Igodaro. Then the other host Dean, School of Medicine, Professor N.O. Onaruna. The Dean, Faculty of Agric, Professor C.O. Omokaro. The Dean, Faculty of Arts, Professor O.B. Osadolo. Dean, School of Basic Clinical Sciences, Professor V.J. Ekanyem. Dean, School of Basic Medical Sciences, Professor H.B. Osadolo. The Dean, School of Dentistry is represented by Professor Mrs. J.E. Enabulele. The Dean, Faculty of Education, Professor K.O. Omorogia. The Dean, Faculty of Engineering, is represented by Dr. C.I. Oboigbe. The Dean, Faculty of Environmental Sciences, Professor Erigyato Raphael. Dean, Faculty of Law, Professor Bright Bazwaye. The Dean, Faculty of Life Sciences, Professor T.O.T. Imobe. The Dean, Faculty of Physical Sciences, Professor E.O. Ayoyin. Acting Dean, Faculty of Management Sciences, Professor Mrs. E.I. Owayiro Osaige. The Dean, Faculty of Pharmacy, is represented by Professor S.C. Arawa. The Dean, Faculty of Social Sciences, is represented by Professor K.U. Omoyibo. Director, Center for Educational Technology, Professor H. Orakena. The Director, Center for Sustainable Development Goals, Professor Mrs. U. Ibudu. Director of Quality Assurance, Professor Peter Aisede. Director, Advanced Digital Engineering Center, ADEC, Professor Mrs. P.E. Orupe. Director, Institute of Childhood, Professor Mrs. Ayebo Sado. Director, Students Guidance and Counseling, Professor Mrs. O.N. Aye. Acting Director, Institute of Public Admin and Health Services Management, Dr. John Osagai. Leading the Vice Chancellor's procession today is Mrs. Eniye Odia, Senior Assistant Registrar, Senate Matters. I now have the honor and privilege to invite our guest Vice Chancellor to introduce the inaugural lecturer for today.
Thank you, Ms. Gyato. Principal officers of the University of Benin, Provost College of Postgraduate Studies, Provost College of Medical Sciences, Deans of Faculties and Schools, Directors of Institutes, members of the Governing Council here present, Professors Emeriti and members of the Senate of the University, my lords, spiritual and temporal, staff and students of the great University of Benin. Great university students, distinguished invited guests and friends of the university, gentlemen of the press, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to the 342nd in the inaugural lecture series of the University of Benin. Today's lecture is the 5th to be delivered in the Department of Mental Health, 7th to be delivered in the School of Medicine, and the 12th to be delivered in my tenure as Vice Chancellor of this great university. As approved by the University Senate, the revision of the first semester 2024-2025 academic session will Friday, and examinations will begin in some faculties and schools on Monday, 26th of May, 2025. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm glad to introduce our lecturer for today. He is Professor ENOBAKHARE UWADIAE. The title of his lecture is Substance Abuse in Our Society, the Silent Epidemic Preying Our Youths. Professor ENOBAKHARE UWADIAE was born on the 19th August 1962 in Oedo local government area of Edo State, to the family of Honorable A.I. UWADIAE, a renowned educationist, and Mrs. Felicia UWADIAE, both of blessed memory. Professor UWADIAE had his primary education first at Edo Primary School, Benin City, and later at St. Peter's Primary School, also in Benin City, to obtain his first school leaving certificate in 1974. He then attended Edo College, Benin City, where he obtained the West African School Certificate in 1979. Professor UWADIAE gained admission into the University of Benin, where he graduated with Bachelor of Medicine and Bachelor of Surgery degree in 1990. He was a house officer at Central Hospital, Benin City, from 1990 to 1991, after which he did his one-year mandatory National Youth Service with the Borno State Hospital Management Board in Damboa, Borno State, from 1991 to 1992. After his youth service, he worked briefly in the private sector before joining the Edo State Hospital Management Board in October 1992. Professor UWADIAE started his residency training at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital, UBTH, in 1996, and obtained the fellowship at the West African College of Physicians, Faculty of Psychiatry, in 2004. He was a lecturer, consultant psychiatrist with Delta State University, ENOBAKHARE General Hospital from 2004 to 2006. He later joined the services of the University of Benin in 2006 as a lecturer grade 1 in the Department of Mental Health, and rose through the ranks to the position of professor in 2019. Professor UWADIAE has been an honorary consultant in UBTH since 2007. He has held several administrative positions within and outside the University of Benin, some of which include President, Association of Resident Doctors, 1996, Admin Head, Department of Occupational Therapy, UBTH 2008 to 2012, Admin Head, Department of Mental Health, University of Benin and University of Benin Teaching Hospital from 2011 to 2014, lecturer, consultant, psychiatrist, Delta State University, ENOBAKHARE, Acting Head, Department of Mental Health, UBTH 2017 to 2021, member, University of Benin Lecturers Committee, 2018, member, University of Benin Library Committee, representative of School of Medicine in Center for Entrepreneurial Development, CED, member, University of Benin Board of Health. Professor UWADIAE is a member of several professional bodies, associations, and fellowships, such as the South-South Coordinator, Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria, member, Association of Psychiatrists in Nigeria, member, Medical and Dental Consultant Association of Nigeria, and also as member, Nigerian Medical Association. Professor UWADIAE is a recipient of some outstanding awards and recognition, which include letter of commendation from the University of Benin Teaching Hospital Management Board on headship of investigative panel, letter of appreciation from the University of Benin Ethics Committee for commitment to service, award of honor from the Nigerian Society of Neurological Sciences, award of excellence, Department of Mental Health on the occasion of the World Mental Health Day celebration, award of honor, award of honor for the Department of Human Resources, University of Benin, for exceptional support, selfless service, and dedication to humanity. Professor UWADIAE has over 35 academic papers in local, national, and international journals. He is an external examiner to so many Nigerian universities and has attended several local, national, and international conferences. Professor UWADIAE has supervised over 4 postgraduate dissertations for the West African College of Surgeons. He has passion for wildlife and support and sport activities. He is a devout Christian and a member of the Deeper Life Christian Ministry. Professor UWADIAE is happily married to his wife, Mrs. Ndidi UWADIAE, and the union is blessed with 5 children. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, it is now my honor and privilege to invite Professor ENOBAKHARE to deliver his inaugural lecture.
Vice Chancellor, sir, permit me to stand on the already established protocol. As I deliver my inaugural lecture, which is titled Substance Use in Our Society, the Silent Epidemic Preying on Our Youth. Vice Chancellor, sir, I'd like to dedicate this lecture to God Almighty. God Almighty, it was He who created me and gave me this life that I am living today. Initially, I lived the life according to my own terms because of a poor understanding of life. But He sought me and found me and redeemed me so that now I can say that whereas I was lost, but now I am found. I also dedicate this lecture to my parents, Honorable Alfred UWADIAE and Mrs. Felicia UWADIAE, both of blessed memory, because all their lives they lived sacrificially just to ensure that we, the children, are where we are today. And to all who are at the forefront of advocacy for mental health and who make sacrifice regularly in the fight against stigma and mental disorders. Vice Chancellor, sir, I am most grateful to our Vice Chancellor, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, and Professor of Law, Professor Doba Omoege, for granting me this opportunity to deliver this inaugural lecture. It is the 342nd of the inaugural lecture series, the 5th in the Department of Mental Health, and the 4th by a psychiatrist in the School of Medicine, College of Medical Sciences, University of Benin. Mental health was the subject that made the greatest impact on me as a student. It opened my eyes to the unintentional behaviors that people display. So I began to understand that we may not all be well all of the time. And that marked the beginning of my journey to mental health. In 1996, as a medical officer in a State Hospitals Management Board, I remember the vision in quotes and came over to UBTH to discuss with the then head of the department, Dr. R.G.A. Uku. It was he who personally facilitated my appointment into the department as a registrar too. Up to today, I stand in awe of my trainers, Drs. R.G.A. Uku, A.N. Otakpo, V.E. Asemota, Professor K.O. Akigbe, the late Professor Ayo Binite, and Mr. Tosan Imade, the clinical psychologist, both of blessed memory. They taught me the basic rudiments that reshaped my understanding of mental health and put these matters in their proper perspective. Their impact was enormous, not for me alone, but for mental health generally. Because I remember when I started residency in 1996, it was rare for anybody to come to a mental health facility straight away from home. It was always through a religious house, usually from a shrine. After they have made all the sacrifices, they will come to the hospital and tell you that this is government hospital, they don't have money anymore. But today, that story has changed thanks to the efforts of my trainers. When I came into the department as a lecturer one, I took interest in addiction psychiatry. And at the appropriate time, I took up the matter with the late Professor Michael Ibadin when he became the Chief Medical Director of UBTH. He was favorably disposed to it. and so I sustained the need for an addictions unit. Later, Dr. Adayafo, who is also a professor now, joined me in the struggle, and when he was absorbed into the department, he joined me in addictions unit. Today, we have, and that took place under the current Chief Medical Director, Professor ENOBAKHARE. Today, we are 3 in department. Professor UWADIAE, who is standing before you now, Professor Adayafo, and the 3rd person is Dr. Oderinde. The World Drug Reports, a publication of the United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, reports that about 210 million people aged between 15 years and 65 years use substances. Problem users amount to about 27% of that number. The global market in drug trafficking estimates a global worth of about $42 billion and $65 billion. So it's a thriving market, and we will soon see that the market is not only it's not an imaginary one. On the papers of the United Nations Office on Drugs and Crime, we have it right here in Benin City. It is only second to the lucrative illicit market of counterfeit and pirated goods. And the situation in Nigeria reflects global trends. You see, as you can see there, an estimated 14.3%, that's about 14.4 million persons aged 15 years and 64 years indulge in drug abuse. It is a global challenge. Cannabis is the most abused illicit substance worldwide. Alcohol is the most abused substance worldwide. You can see the charts here. I didn't put it here to bore you with irrelevant details. I just put it here so that you know that when you talk about United Nations Office on Drug and Crime, their statistics, it sounds distant from you. But by the time you talk about what is happening here in Benin City, you will know that the problem is here with us, and all of us must together make a collective fight against it. The drug exhibits from October 2020 to April 2025 from NDLEA, Edo State, Benin Zonal Office. You can see the drugs there: cannabis, cocaine, heroin, methamphetamine, other psychotropics, codeine syrups, and others, cookies. Some people invite you for a party, and if you are not careful, you eat cake that is laced with cannabis. When you start having symptoms, then you will understand that you probably ingested what you did not bargain for. So what we must take home from here is that cocaine is there, cannabis is there, heroin is there, other psychotropics are there, even benylin with codeine, the usual cough syrup, is there. So the problem is not distant, the problem is here with us. If there was no market for it, NDLEA would not have had all these exhibits. Over the 5 years that we are talking about, NDLEA exhibit was 84,052 kilograms. And out of this, cannabis alone accounted for 84,406 kilograms by weight. People use substances because why do people use substances? We need to ask ourselves. People use substances because they want to feel good. We can call it recreational use. Some people want to enhance their performance in whatever vocation they are. We are familiar with the use of performance enhancing drugs in sports. It keeps recurring. Some students use medicaments to make them stay awake in order to put in more hours into their studies. And yet for some others, they venture into substances because of sheer curiosity and peer group influence. And I'm sure it will not surprise you to know that some people even use substances to last longer during sex. It is hard to separate substance use from crime. This is another reason why people use substances. Crime. To augment crime, to facilitate crime. For example, people have been known to use substances to facilitate the process of rape. It can also be used for social reasons, to overcome social anxiety, like incapacity to talk in public, and to perform in concerts and musical shows. These have created lots of problems today in our society. The society inadvertently too promotes substance use. And how do they do that? Media outlets. What do they do? What do the media outlets do? Glamorization of drug use. And they don't even know that that is a lure for our youths to begin the use of substances. Somebody is playing a game. Let us say, for example, a game of polo. When he wins, then they give him a stick of cigarettes, display the packet, or a particular brand of alcohol, display the bottle so everybody can see the name, and then they make it look as though they pay them in such a way as to give the impression that it was because of the use of this substance that this person achieved victory. So you are pairing success with drug use, and that is a lure for our youths. This is the picture of the brain, a diagrammatic representation of the brain. I put it here just so that we can remember that whatever we are talking about today actually has its origin from the brain. Development of addiction. How does addiction develop? The brain has so many functions. It also has centers that are responsible for some functions that are of interest to us today. The reward system, for example. A man will learn to do those things that give him reward, that satisfy him, that give him pleasure. This is one way drug users get stuck to the habit. In the course of this lecture today, I'm going to be using alcohol as gold standard to represent substances of abuse, except where specific drugs have to be mentioned and to be so stated. I will also be using drug and substances interchangeably to represent the same thing. How do people, we ask again, get stuck? What are the substances and what are the possible explanations? We start with psychoanalysis as developed by Sigmund Freud. Sigmund Freud was a neurologist, a medical practitioner, born in the present-day Austria, but he was best known for his psychoanalytic theories. Sigmund Freud believed that childhood experiences could shape adult personality. He proposed different stages of psychosexual development. We are interested in the oral stage today, 0 to 1 year. Now, two things are evident in the first year of life in a child. The first is that the child is totally dependent on the parents. The second is that whatever you give to a child in the first year of life, the child puts in his mouth. And Sigmund Freud explained it this way, that for you to have a stable adult personality, you need to negotiate all the stages of psychosexual development properly. Failure to negotiate them, you may get stuck. If you are arrested in any stage, when you grow, your adult personality is going to reflect that stage that you got stuck to. So if you get stuck to the first year of life, even when you become an adult, you are going to be dependent on the people around you. You are also going to now be putting things in your mouth. And that was how he explained the use of alcohol, the use of substances in general. Those people fail to negotiate the first year of life appropriately. They got stuck to it, and now they have become dependent on those around them, and they also use substances. It is referred to as the stage of oral gratification. We also have genetic basis to explain addictions, because we are in an era of evidence-based medicine. It is believed that genetics play 40% to 60% of a person's risk to developing addiction. The biggest evidence for this is genetic mediation in substance abuse. It has been found that there's a similar concordance rate in identical twins, each identical twin, even when they are raised apart. There's much reliability between one identical twin and the other. That means that there is the vulnerability factor is the same for them. It shows that environment plays a lower contribution to development of disorder than genetics. Simply put, if you are a brother to a substance user, you have a higher chance than the ordinary person to abuse a substance. If you are an identical twin, your chance increases. Family history of addiction. This contributes also to development of addiction. It increases the risk of developing addiction. Mental health disorder. In some cases, particularly at the onset of depression or schizophrenia, when people are feeling unwell, they have just started developing the disorder, but they are not aware here that something is going on. They know something is going on, but they can't place a finger on it. At that point, they seek explanation from those around them who hardly know better. At that point in time, the people are vulnerable. Some people become stuck to substances at such points. Peer pressure. We all know about this. Some children, some youths want to belong. Lack of family involvement. This is another thing we need to take note of. Some people give birth to children and they literally live their lives as if they have no commitment, no responsibility to anybody. Even when you ask some of them, don't worry, when pikin grow, go look for a papa. And that is how it goes. When a child lacks family input, that child has more than an ordinary risk, has more than the general risk of becoming an addict. Early use. Some children benefit from remnant. In fact, the bigger boys around them gift them leftover substances. Maybe when they are playing a game, let's say draft, for example, I'm sure we are all familiar with that. And they send a child, go and buy beer for me. By the time they are finished drinking, they have almost finished drinking the bottle of beer. The little that is left under, they say, Daniel, you take this one. And Daniel is glad. The little that is left from the stick of cigarettes, Daniel, you take this one. And Daniel is glad. Daniel is gradually getting used to smoking and drinking. So such a child who starts drinking and smoking in the early years of his life has a higher than an average chance of getting stuck to drugs. Experimental use of highly addictive drugs. Even a single puff of cocaine is enough to make you become an addict. Physical and sexual abuse. People who are physically and sexually abused, particularly in their youth, they have a higher than normal chance of developing addiction. Why do we worry about drug use and addiction? Why? There are several issues that can arise from drug use. They could be physical, they could be psychological, and it could be both. There are physical effects: lung disease, heart disease, stroke, cancer, liver disease. Psychological effects: anxiety, depression, confusion, paranoia, elevated mood, insomnia, changes in behavior, which may be subtle or violent, poor performance in school, and so on. And there are also economic drawbacks that result from substance use. For parents, the effects are unquantifiable. Some parents may be unable to meet their domestic financial responsibility, like paying their children's school fees. They have not even talked about homelessness. Homelessness is a prominent feature, and it may ensue in some instances. There may be increase in debt burden because the drug user may need to borrow to sustain the drug habit. What does it do when craving ensues? He has to take the drug. Suicide may also ensue in some cases. I put this picture here, let me see, to try to drive home the point. There are many people here, males, females, they are smoking, whatever they are smoking. But this is particularly pathetic because there is a baby here that is breastfeeding and the mother is smoking. If this child survives to adulthood, he has a higher than an average chance of becoming a drug addict himself. It's like commotion. Everybody is smoking whatever he wants to smoke. And here we have a mixture. So we just it's a concussion. They have put so many things inside there. You stir it and you take as much quantity as you want.
Don't open your eyes. Open your eyes. Open your eyes. Don't look like you. Open face. I'm running that guy. You come and open your body.
Don't try to find a rational explanation for what they are doing. Drug abusers are not rational people when they are high. Common substances of abuse in our environment. It is not possible to itemize all substances of addiction in our environment. The United Nations Office on Drugs identified 900 new substances of addiction within a 10-year period. 900. So if I tell you now that I'm going to give you a rundown of all the substances of addiction in this environment, then we are not going to talk about anything else here today. So what we do is to tell you the common substances of addiction that you are likely to come across in your environment. The list is always getting longer. And priority substance today may not be priority substance tomorrow. Alcohol. Like I said earlier, alcohol is the commonest substance of abuse worldwide. It can give you blackouts, tremors, shakiness, craving, lack of restraint, feeling of guilt, fatty liver, liver disease, pancreas cancer. Nicotine can increase blood pressure, can narrow arteries to the heart, can increase chances of getting stroke. Cannabis, local synonyms, Morocco, Igbo, weed. Cannabis is cultivated in this environment. As I showed you in the statistics of NDLEA, over 83,000 kilograms of cannabis has been exhibited in fact, it has been an exhibit on their table, documented as exhibit, I'm sorry, and cannabis use in our environment is perhaps the commonest substance of abuse. We have one of the most potent cannabis in the world, as they say, Naija no dey carry last. The federal government, because of this, the federal government, smoking, has always insisted that every packet of cigarettes must carry a warning inscription. You can see in the diagram or in the picture before you, you have a choice to make if you are not a smoker. If you are a smoker, you still have a choice to make. If you have been smoking before now, look at the lungs before you and decide which one you choose. If you are contemplating to start because you think it's going to improve your status, look at the lungs before you and make a choice. So you may have seen on packets of cigarettes over 10 different inscriptions, like the federal government, the Federal Ministry of Health warns that smoking is dangerous to health. Federal Ministry of Health warns that smokers are liable to die young. Tobacco causes painful death. In spite of all these warnings, people still smoke. Other substances of addiction. Codeine. Codeine is a substance of addiction, not benylin. But when it becomes difficult for people to source codeine, they go for benylin with codeine. The codeine content in benylin with codeine is minimal. So what people do is to buy bottles of codeine, benylin with codeine, and drink all at once. It may not just even be one bottle. They can start with one bottle and gradually increase the dose. Loud is a variant of cannabis. There are three types. There are many types, but the ones that are common here: Nigerian loud, Ghana loud, Canadian loud. My patients so far have not demonstrated any preference. They have not been able to really tell me why they prefer anyone. But the few that have tried to give explanation will tell you that they prefer Canadian loud because it is more expensive. Shishai, this one is smoked as pipe. The content of shishai can be cannabis, and they just add flavor or charcoal. Whatever they put as the content of shishai is whatsoever the person decides to put. Arizona, lizard excrement. Like I said, there are so many substances. I mentioned that earlier. But I just chose lizard excrement here to represent those substances that are sourced locally, not only lizard excrement now, to represent them. I talked on this some time ago, somewhere in this same campus. I just hope those who were there that day will not be bored hearing it again. So the source is locally. How did it gain prominence? It was in Kano, when the law enforcement agents decided to up their game. And so it became difficult for people to source the conventional substances. Alcohol, cocaine, cannabis, because they were under the radar of the law. So what the people did was to look within. Necessity, they say, is the mother of invention. They began to source lizard excrement. They pull lizard excrement together. You know, it's black and white. So they break away the black portion. They gather the white portion. Because they are afraid of infection, they put it together and boil it. They allow it to cool. They sieve it, and then they drink the liquid that results from it. Other substances of addiction. Ice. This is not ice from the freezer. It's methamphetamine. Pronounced in the streets are rofinol. This one causes deep, sustained sedation. It is not as popular here as it is in South Africa, where the world is a global village. So who knows when it will get here? It's a brand of fluid that tries a palm 10 times more potent than Valium. At higher doses, it can cause loss of consciousness and forgetfulness for events. This probably is what makes it dear to the criminals, because they use it for rape, and when you bring them, if you bring them, you happen to bring them before they are rape victims, because of the forgetfulness, which is a side effect of the flunitrazepam, their victims may fail to recognize them. So they do the rape, and well, let me say they get away with it. Others, human bones. People dry human bones and they smoke it. It started in Sierra Leone. People invaded cemetery. I don't see this one coming to Nigeria. Well, that's a personal opinion. That's not necessarily science. But why do I talk about personal opinion here now? It's because in Nigeria we seem to have a lot of respect for the dead. I don't see anybody going to any cemetery to dig up human bones to smoke. People smoke, people inhale fried oils, monkey tail, that is ogogoro and Indian hemp. Well, you know what I mean when I say ogogoro, native gene. Pens, adhesives, Evostick, prescription medications like tramadol, codeine, prednisolone, diazepam, often called volume 5. Others like physics, human physics, incidental, then we have incidental use. I deliberately call this one incidental use because few weeks ago in our ward, 2 patients were seen going to the toilet supposedly to ease themselves. You know, our nurses have a very high index of suspicion. So they followed them and they caught them smoking. But the question is, how did they even get lighter? In a ward with controlled access, visitors. So when the nurses are telling you, this is not time for visitation, or that, oh no, you must be monitored, you should not do this, you should not do that, they have a reason. They are highly trained personnel. Other substances, incidental use, Milo, they have not finished with that. The Milo, when they saw that, oh, what are you smoking? When they unfolded the foil, they found that it was Milo that was given to them by their loved ones who came to visit. When the craving came and it was overwhelming, they had nothing to do other than to take the substance that was available to them, whether it was a psychoactive substance or not, it didn't matter. They just had to smoke. Yeah. Thank you. You have some pictures before you here. You have tramadol on the top left. You have cannabis. Already one of the wrap is already prepared. On the lower right, you have methamphetamine. Lower left, you have promethazine with codeine. Promethazine is phenergan. You can have it as injection, you can have it as tablets, you can have it as syrup. What they do is to buy the syrup, put it inside a cup of Sprite, and add codeine to it. So it becomes a liquor that gives them the psychotropic effects that they desire. Vice Chancellor, sir. Drug use which appears like a pandemic today has been with mankind as far as history can go. The only thing that has really changed is that there are many more rules of administration now than it was many years ago. Aside the morbidity that is associated with it, drug use is ever an exciting part of psychiatry. I present a case scenario. as part of my contributions to knowledge. What I intend to emphasize here is motivation as it relates to improvement in clinical care. If a patient comes to you, usually they are brought by their loved ones, and you ask him, let me use the familiar name I used before, Daniel, your people have brought you. Why do you think they brought you? You say, I don't know, no, I just did has did my own. Now they see me, they follow them, they come. Such a person is not likely to make progress. Failure rate is very high among such persons who do not understand, they lack insight and they lack motivation. Unlike the case I'm going to present now, who has motivation? And I call the person patient 11, a 28-year-old single unemployed female referred to a mental health facility from a general practice clinic on account of addiction to pentazocine. On arrival, she said, I want to stop injecting myself. Her siblings also complained of the patient injecting herself for about 5 years prior to presentation. It all started after she had this pain reliever to relieve her ulcer pain in a medical outfit. Apart from pain relief, the pentazocine made her feel high, with an unusual calmness, sleepy, and also improved her appetite. By the time she had this experience, she began to inject herself. Over time, she increased her intake from 2 ampoules a day to 10 ampoules a day. She has had to steal, sell her belongings, engage in commercial sex to sustain the use of pentazocine. And pentazocine cost her 30,000 naira monthly as at 2014. And don't forget, the person we are talking about now is an unemployed person. And there were times that she collapsed due to overdose. She also had multiple sores which disfigured her and had several brushes with the law. UWADIAE, and they present a case of pentazocine dependence with comorbid sores and other problems that often accompany substance use. Like I said, the emphasis here is on motivation. If you bring a patient who is not interested in discontinuing substance use, the chances are that the patient will fall out of treatment. The patient that I'm presenting now, that I presented now, did well. Instances where significant persons in the family bring in patients against the patient's will often result in abandonment of treatment. We also did work among university students. UWADIAE and Oshashona 2019. This work was principally aimed at determining the prevalence and pattern of substance abuse in the University of Benin. Alcohol, cigarettes, Benin with codeine, syrup, cocaine, cannabis, and TCP. TCP, incidentally, is a disinfectant. But curiously, one of the respondents said he was drinking TCP. Alcohol, cigarette, Benin with codeine, cocaine, cannabis, and TCP, like I said, they were the substances most used by the students of the University of Benin. The 3 most abused then were alcohol, cigarette, and Benin with codeine, in that order. The students showed a preference for beer than they had for local gin, and males were more into substance use than females. Substance use has long been seen as a masculine activity. Undocumented in this publication, however, was the finding that females were more likely than males to get involved in substance use in their second year of study in the University of Benin. So if you have a daughter, she's not using substances in the first year, don't go to sleep yet. UWADIAE 2011 looked at psychoactive substance use and abuse among students in the private university in Edo State. What informed my decision to undergo this was an anecdotal report I got somewhere in Warri concerning the use of Benin with codeine syrup, that it took a priority position over the old conventional substances. The findings I had confirmed the verbal unofficial report of the abuse of such medicament. Alcohol retained its pride of place as a substance of abuse. But next was Benin with codeine, then cannabis, cigarette, heroin, and cocaine in that order. UWADIAE and ENOBAKHARE 2017 examined substance use and psychiatric morbidity among students of Edo State Polytechnic, Usen. The objective was to examine the common trend of substances used among a group of tertiary institution students. At Usen Polytechnic, I think this was the best result. More than 50% of the students did not use any psychoactive substance. 43% of the participants used alcohol. So once again, alcohol took pride of place over cigarette and cannabis. We didn't put a distinction between cigarette and cannabis. What we just said was smoking. Amongst commercial motor vehicle drivers, UWADIAE and Otakpo studied the pattern of psychoactive substance use among commercial motor vehicle drivers in an urban area in Niger Delta region of Nigeria. The study location was Benin, and we took blood samples to determine those who had drinking habit for years. Amongst the drivers, the most prevalent substance used was cola nuts. Others were local gin, kankai. Then local gin with herbs, roots, and cannabis in that order. Oh, sorry. We also researched some other populations, sickle cell patients. Bazaya and UWADIAE studied pentazocine dependence among sickle cell disease patients. Attending outpatient specialized clinic in Benin, I wanted to find out the commonest sites of injection, and this was it. Buttocks ranked highest. Thigh was second. Upper arm was third. All the other sites put together, 4%. You can see the photographs before you here. On the top right, you can see the person's hands. I call it hands now, and upper arm up to the elbow. Both hands are swollen, massively swollen because of injection with pentazocine. On the left, you can see the back of the person's hand is sloughing off. Some places are already at different stages of healing because of continuous use of pentazocine. We also researched HIV/AIDS population. UWADIAE and therefore looked at psychiatric morbidity, including substance use among HIV/AIDS patients at the University of Benin Teaching Hospital. Again, alcohol was most used, followed by tobacco and cannabis. Depression and anxiety were the psychiatric disorders most prevalent in that population. UWADIAE and therefore and Norway replicated the study, except that it was now amongst HIV/AIDS patients with tuberculosis. The results were similar. The patients used alcohol more than they smoked cigarette, and they smoked more of cigarette than cannabis. Again, anxiety and depression were the commonest psychiatric disorders in that population. Though most of my research work was on substances, I also veered into some other areas. Scholarship and UWADIAE 2013 studied intellectual function among epileptic children. That is the role of epilepsy-related factors in Nigeria. Results show that at least 70% of epileptic children had some level of intellectual impairment. Vice Chancellor, sir. Recommendations. We need to embrace knowledge. Education is key. If you have the knowledge, you are not likely to veer into those things that will harm you. The recent concept of education is a scam must be discarded. People should live above stigma. We must make conscious efforts, individuals and government, to destigmatize psychiatric disorders and substance use so that those who have it as problem can come forward. Advocacy is also paramount. People are unaware of what psychiatry is. Enlightenment programs need to be mounted. And don't forget, we are also a very religious people. If somebody says he's coming to the hospital and his religious leader says you don't need that, the person will not turn up. So the religious leaders also need to be aware Preventive strategies need to be put in place by relevant organs of government, and these may include support systems, proper formal education, community engagement, and there is need to have mental health physicians in every government hospital so that it will not be difficult to access treatment. Efforts must also be made at all levels to raise the level of productivity of the people. People need to be engaged, and I don't mind they say is the devil's workshop. Both government and private agencies should be encouraged to de-emphasize associating drug use with success and celebrity status. Television and radio adverts and media chats need to be monitored and controlled. Conclusion. Vice Chancellor, sir. I have attempted in this lecture to highlight some of the causes and reasons for addiction to substances. Substance use is with us as a challenge and it continues to grow even as the society is making efforts to stop it. That a notable problem is with us is without doubt, but that it spread no further is a collective responsibility. So if it is only lighter that you can seize from somebody, you are contributing to the fight against the use of substances. We must all remain optimistic about positive outcomes. This is the only way we can muster adequate courage to confront the monster. Finally, the issue of brain drain must be addressed. We need enough hands to prosecute this war against drug use. Acknowledgement. Once again, I give thanks to God Almighty, by whose strength I have come this far. He guided me in all my decisions and at every point in my journey. I must remember my parents of blessed memory. I wish they were here today. It is difficult documenting and thanking all those who have played significant roles in my journey because there are many and may not all be conspicuous. How do I, for example, thank those who prayed for me in their closets and for reasons best known to them did not bother telling me? There may also be those who prayed and worked for my safety when I did not even know I was in danger. Many thanks to all of you. I must specially mention Reverend and Mrs. G.I. UWADIAE. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma. I appreciate you. Permit me, Vice Chancellor, sir, to recognize somebody here in our midst. He is the head of the UWADIAE family, and he doubles as the head of our community. He has come a long way just because of this inaugural lecture. Dr. Sam UWADIAE, kindly stand up, sir. A round of applause for him. He is the head of UWADIAE family. He is the head of Ogumeyi community. He is our father now. Thank you, sir. I also appreciate the whole of UWADIAE family. I've mentioned that. I thank all those that ever taught me right from primary one. You know, as a professor, nobody remembers that somebody held your hands to write ABCD. I thank all of you. I've had to work with trainers, contemporaries, more recently trainees. I'm grateful to you all. Amongst them are Dr. R.G.A. Uku, who brought me into the department as a resident. Dr. A.N. Otako, who brought me in as an academic staff. I remember that call you made to me when I was in Delsu. My dear UWADIAE, are you still interested in coming to Benin? And I said, yes, sir. It is always better to be closer home. I also thank all Delsu staff here present. When I worked in Delta State University, Abraka, you people were simply wonderful. Thanks also to Dr. Mrs. V. Asebota, to Professor K. O. Akigbe, my senior brother in the department. My gratitude to the late Mr. Tosan Imade. He made the most dynamic impression on me as a student. And he didn't know he was one of those that influenced my coming. Dr. Odum of blessed memory, I asked him more questions than I asked any of my trainers, but he was only a resident like me. I also acknowledge the late Professor Ayo Biniti. He used to come out of retirement to give us tutorials. I wish to thank my friends for their support. Dr. Zenel Owe, Charles Amobi, Solomon Agbawe, Professor Fidelis Olumesi, alias full cover. Professor Eddie Kameno, I will also not forget a former Deputy Vice Chancellor, classmate, Professor Pius Irigwe of blessed memory, and other classmates, Professor Matthew Enoselasi, for their collaborative efforts. Many thanks also go to Professor Kensington Obayagbo, former Dean of Engineering, and my colleagues who work together with me in the department, Professor E.O. Adayofo, Dr. S.O. Shashana, I.O. Aino, M. Ehimigba, K.O. Odenide, and recently Dr. Uledosa. The post-facto residents, Drs. Okoji, Ejiofo, all the residents, Drs. Ebuchi, Agaga, Meniwu, and Oba. The clinical psychologists have been wonderful. Thank you, Dr. Kole Osho, Olaide, and your team, Mr. Chris Agbejo and Mr. Stephen Folonsho. To all members, ministers, and members of Deeper Christian Life Ministry, I say thank you very much. Thanks also to Professor Wilson Sado, Provost of College of Medical Sciences. Okay. Thank you very much. Vice Chancellor, sir, I wish to specifically thank my children, Dr. Sagwe, Edosa, Elijah, Cephas Mirabe, and Dr. Furu, my son-in-law. I wish to thank my brothers represented here by Osaini Randy and Dr. Anthony UWADIAE, Department of Anesthesia. And lastly, but not the least, I have written our name here in capital letters so that we will all see it. The wife of my youth. Smile. Vice Chancellor, sir, this lecture will not come to an end until I specifically thank all those who have sacrificed their time and their alternative commitments just to come and grace this occasion. I say thank you, thank you, thank you.
I thought you would be standing. I thought you would be standing. More. Thank you. Please sit. I'm not just... Please, first sit, sir. Not yet. I'm not just asking us to clap. I'm sure we all agree that this was a most lucid lecture. In fact, an expose, giving us a lot of food for thought and the need for more vigilance by parents. May I, at this point, respectfully invite our dynamic Vice Chancellor to summarize the lecture. Mr. Vice Chancellor, sir.
Thank you so much. Please can we give another round of applause to our inaugural lecture, as Pierre said, giving a very lucid lecture. I'm not surprised at all. We are in the University of Benin. So Professor of Benin will not do anything else. So thank you, Professor UWADIAE, for a brilliant lecture. So mine is to summarize the lecture. According to Professor UWADIAE, United Nations Office on Drug and Crime reports that up to 210 million people aged between the ages of 15 and 64 use substances. As a serious number. Up to 27% of that number are problem users. Drug use poses an economic strain on individuals and nations. The global market in drug use is only second to the illicit market in pirated and counterfeited goods. People use substances for different reasons. Some to feel good, according to Professor UWADIAE, others to try to improve performance, and sometimes for criminal purposes, among others. Drug users get stuck to drug use because of the pleasure they get from the stimulation of the brain reward centers. Psychoanalytical theories attempt to explain drug addiction. Genetics, lack of family involvement in a child's upbringing, peer pressure, and other reasons for the development of addiction were also discussed by Professor UWADIAE. It is important to emphasize that we need to worry about the addiction because it causes harm to users. Harm may be physical, as you see in cases of lung diseases and cancer, and of course even the picture that was shown, you could see it. And it could be psychological, as you see in cases of anxiety, depression, and paranoia. Or in some cases, harm may take the form of homelessness or economic drawbacks, in which case an abuser may be unable to meet up with domestic or social responsibilities, like paying the children's school fees, because they have already spent all the money taking drugs, or in meeting other basic family responsibilities. The list of common substances of abuse in our society is endless, according to Professor UWADIAE. It may be legal substances like alcohol, or prescription medication like desazepine, according to him, or it could be illicit substance like cannabis. The lecturer recommends, among others, the need for advocacy and creation of awareness, and concludes that efforts to stop drug use and abuse must be genuine, must be focused, and it must be sustained. So that's a summary. So please, can we give Professor UWADIAE another round of applause? Thank you so much. God bless all of us.
Please put your hands together again for our Vice Chancellor as we invite the lecturer to step forward to be decorated by the Vice Chancellor. Immediate family members, please come up stage for photograph. Immediate family members, wife and children. If there is senior brother, senior sister, please join to represent parents. And so as they do that, please join me to welcome the wife of the lecturer, Mrs. Ndudi UWADIAE. Please clap for her. The children, Osaugwe Akpabio, Mrs. Cephas UWADIAE, Mirabel UWADIAE, and the son-in-law, Mr. Oforo Akpabio. Please clap for them as they come up stage. Other family members here, join me to appreciate William Iyekekpolo, Osayawe Iyekekpolo, Nat Iyekekpolo, Engineer Aredo, and Honorable Alex Osayi. Please appreciate them. We welcome the immediate past registrar of WAEC, Dr. Iyi UWADIAE. Welcome, sir. We welcome the Odionwe of Ogureyi community, Dr. Sam UWADIAE. If you may, please, sir, join in the photograph. We welcome Mr. Alex Ayeroyomo, Mr. Samuel Ayeroyomo. We welcome the CMD, Federal Neuropsychiatric Hospital Uselu, Dr. Imafidon Agbonile. We welcome the chairman, Nigerian Association of Medical and Dental Academics, Professor Alphonsus Isara. We welcome Professor Emeritus Raymond Elaho, Professor Emeritus Nosa Erafona, Professor Ofiafo Eya, Professor David Osifo, Professor Solomon Omoniwo. We welcome Professor Charles Imarengiaye. We welcome Professor Andrew Edo, Professor Kingsley Ahibe, Professor Kocha Chide. We welcome Professor Ehiga Enabudoso, his chairman. We also welcome other members of the Medical and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, UBTH. Please clap for them. Thank you. We welcome Professor Iyabode Nwabrozi, Professor Idiato Adayunfu, Professor Matthias Emokpai. We welcome Professor Mrs. Alice Umeni. We welcome Professor Tobechukwu Machie. We welcome Professor Omolade Awodu, Professor Mrs. Rosalind Esewe. We welcome you. We welcome Professor Mrs. Musaka Idwa Iyekene. And last but certainly not the least, Professor Martina Adaiku. We welcome you. Let's clap, let's clap, let's clap, let's clap. Thank you very much. Please let's go to our seats. Let's return to our seats, please. as we bring to a close this 342nd inaugural lecture of the University of Benin. Please rise to take the Uniben anthem and the third stanza of the national anthem. Yes, Madonna, just wait 1 minute, let them return to their seats. Because anthems are expected to be sung while standing in one place and not moving. We crave your indulgence, please. Remain standing for the Vice Chancellor's procession to leave the auditorium.